And we are live. Hi, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is MMA Renegade Podcast, episode 14. Elijah, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. As you can see, I have a change of scenery here. I'm in my living room, and
Got the golden do-rag on?
yeah, got the gold. Stop! Don't do that. The gold silky.
Golden do-rag?
We'll pick another color for the fall. You know how I go. I like to have the infinity.
I like that throughout the course of this show, you just constantly changing do-rags over and over.
If there's anything I could do, this is the least. This is the very least. But I do like to switch it up. I'm thinking of a new color for the fall, so we'll see what the fall brings. I'm good though. Let's change the scenery, get some light going on here. How are you?
I like it. I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Want to have a small get together today.
Nice.
You know what? Since we're here, let's break the news here, right? So Elijah, you have a new job.
I do. I definitely do. Yeah, I applied and I got the job. It's been I've been waiting honestly a month and a half, at least since the beginning of June. But
Right.
yeah, I got a new job as a rehab assistant, so I'm excited to be starting at the end of the month.
This is something that Elijah has been wanting to do for a while now. You know, you went to college, you graduated. Now you're going to your grad school, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to. So the goal is to get to PA school, but this is one of the jobs that'll help me get that hands-on experience. So I'm excited for the new opportunity, brother. Thank you for shouting me out. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Definitely. I mean, following your journey on just you going through the courses of trying to get to where you want to be has been part of the show. So I'm happy to be, man.
Appreciate the love.
That's the good news. Oh, also, I got a new job as well. I am a pro wrestling news writer now. So I now officially work for SE Scoops. That's a wrestling news site. They also cover MMA as well. So I am now a pro wrestling news writer. You can catch my stuff.
You can't introduce me without introducing yourself, brother. This man is over here giving me too much praise.
I work for SE Scoops. You'll read my stuff there. I'm also trying to work with MMA team as well. What this means is maybe it's change the schedule a little bit. Maybe change the schedule. We'll work out the details next week. I'll make an announcement. But what is also going to change is we're going to get more content as well. So you're going to get more weekly content throughout the weekdays. Now that I'm able to work from home a little bit and be able to be in front of a screen, you're going to get more content from me and more content about some pre-shows, some analytic breakdowns, more UFC news and stuff like that. Work on some more interviews to bring in. So the schedule may change, but what's also changing is more content being put on this channel. So definitely look out for that. We'll come up with more ideas and official announcement in the weeks to come. So there's that. Now, Elijah, let's get into it.
Yes, sir. Just let me shake it out, Tyriece. I think this is one of the.
I got some stuff to get off my chest.
What'd you say? You got something to get off. Yep. Okay. Last night, UFC gives us yet another pay-per-view card known as UFC 265. Cyril Bongamon Lugani versus Derek the Black Beast Lewis. We had, which is the penultimate, interim heavyweight belt on the line. These two gentlemen have had an impressive last 2 years, with Cyril gaining notoriety over the last few years, with COVID, beating top tier perennial contenders such as Alexander Volkov, Jair Rosenstruck, and Junior Dos Santos. And then you have Derek Lewis coming up with multiple wins on, I believe, what was a 4-fight win streak over guys like Curtis Blades. That was his last knockout, which we did watch, and we said, God damn, the man has power. Last night, the two heavyweights fought. And our co-main event, which we'll get to later, that was a phenomenal, interesting, very technical bout between Jose Jr. Aldo versus Pedro Munoz. Last night, we know that these gentlemen brought it at the Toyota Center in what's called Houston, Texas. But there can only be one victor, Tyriece, and we know that. The man we assumed to get the job done, Cyril Bongamin, had won by TKO in the third round. Tyriece, take it away, please. Why'd you stop?
All right, so let's start it. For the viewers watching, we appreciate you. Definitely comment in the chat about what I'm about to say here. Subscribe and like if you haven't already. All right. I hear everything you just said, and I mostly agree with you on, we predicted this, and the Jose Aldo. I think we're going to talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
However, can we both acknowledge this was not supposed to happen? Right? We both acknowledge that what should have happened is FrancisNgannou defending his belt against Derek Lewis at a later date, most likely September, October, maybe. Right?
Yep.
The UFC did a deal with Toyota Center to run events and to prioritize Toyota Center as a place where they could run events from this year to 2022 and so on and so forth. So they're going to run big events in Houston moving forward, which is cool. But it also tells me that they put the business plan of the Toyota Center before the actual champion, right? Because they wanted to do Derek Lewis fighting in Houston, regardless of whether FrancisNgannou was there or not. So they created a fake interim belt, and this time I'm going to say fake. Hold on. A fake interim belt, while the undisputed champion was literally ready to go the next month. And so now, what we talked about here on the show before is how FrancisNgannou was going on a bit of a redemption story or a comeback and trying to become the superstar that he can become to be. He's in Fast 9. He beat Stipe literally a couple of months ago. And now the person that he has left that he had to redeem himself against was Derek Lewis, the guy that beat him, the guy that has the victory over him. And you have Derek Lewis, who is entertaining, who has been on a win streak, who has been a fan for everybody.
Yep. And
so the perfect matchup was FrancisNgannou getting his comeback, getting his redemption story, completing that arc of his career against a Derek Lewis who's on a rise right now after losing to Junior Dos Santos and now on a rise and getting back to a title. Perfect setup. The UFC prioritized the business instead of the actual champion who literally had to go through hell just to be a champion. Do you not remember? Like he lost to Stipe and then he had to beat Cain Velasquez, who was coming back. Oh no, he lost to Derek Lewis after that. But he had to beat Cain Velasquez.
Yeah.
Then he beat Junior Dos Santos. Then he beat Rosenstruck.
After a year layoff.
He had to fight those men just to get a title shot. And now we're seeing Ciryl Gane with no disrespect to Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane, is fairly new in the UFC. We knew he was going to be a title contender, but we didn't think it's going to be this soon. And now Ciryl Gane has
heavyweight. So that's the thing about heavyweight stars. The heavyweight pitcher stars insert and exit very, very quickly, depending on how UFC pushes you. But you're right. They chose the business over the fighters. Keep going.
And now we have Ciryl Gane now as the interim champion against FrancisNgannou, which again that may be a fantastic matchup from FrancisNgannou, but nobody is going to be intrigued, or that the intrigue of that fight is not as comparable as Derek Lewis versus FrancisNgannou is.
I think it's different I understand what you're trying to say. I think the intrigue of Derek Lewis versus
that's a good fight. That's a money fight.
That's a money fight because we know how the first fight went, right? He beat him after his very first loss and the UFC under the UFC ban, right? Beat him, couldn't get the power going, couldn't get anything going. That's a great redemption story to sell. Mm-hmm. The counter argument to that is last night everybody saw how technically skilled Ciryl Gane is. Now, I'm not saying they could sell it just as much or build it up just as much. Who knows, depending on how much UFC is willing to put into this. However, there is stock there because one of the repeated, storylines last night was that they were former training partners, and if Ciryl Gane beats Derek Lewis, he gets to fight his former training partner in Ngannou. So that's one of the narratives sold last night. I'm not saying it's similar, but That is also a narrative that which they could explore if they want to make that fight.
I'm glad you said it's one of the narratives that they explore. There's other narrative I want to get to in a second, but the narrative that FrancisNgannou and Cyril Gane were training partners, from what I've heard from just looking around and other reporters that spoke about this as well, they were training partners, quotes, for a short amount of time. They weren't long-time training partners. It wasn't like they grew up together and they've been training for a long time, for years or whatever. It may have been, from what I'm seeing or what I've heard, it may have been maybe, one session, or it may have been for a training for a fight or whatever. But it wasn't like a Kobe Covington and Jorge Masvidal situation where they were like blood brothers and they've been training together for a long time, stuff like that. If they were training together, again, from what I'm seeing, it's a very short amount of time. So it wasn't like FrancisNgannou and Cyril Gane have been training for years.
Yeah.
Also, remember, it's like Cyril Gane is fairly new to MMA. He's only 10-0.
Well, being new to MMA doesn't mean you're new to fighting, right? There's a record that exists outside of being an MMA fighter, which he has. But yes, he's
no. But
new.
I'm saying the timeline between when FrancisNgannou has been training at MMA, because he hasn't been doing it for a long time either, and Cyril Gane
5 years, I want to say.
Maybe right, but so the time of, and then remember, FrancisNgannou switched his training camp.
Yeah, I believe he's stateside.
He's been training with Keith Lee's training with them too. What's the name?
He's been training. Extreme
Couture. So like the timetable of like when they've been training together and how they've been training together, and like it's not all there. Like compared to like, again, Kobe Covington, Jorge Masvidal, or John Jones and Rashad Evans, like they're trying to create this narrative that FrancisNgannou and Cyril Gane been training for all these years, which is not true.
Well, I do believe it does go beyond the it's probably a few training stretches, because as a heavyweight, there's not too many people you can kind of go against. So I'm sure you're right. I don't think it is as long as they're trying to lead it on to believe, but the fact of the matter is that they have trained together. And this is the second time we've heard this narrative, because we also heard of Corey Sandhagen and TJ Dillashaw. Their narrative in their fight was that they also used to be training partners as well.
But it wasn't a big narrative. The big narrative was that TJ Dillashaw's coming back.
It's a narrative nonetheless. I'm just saying this is the second time.
Right, but it's a weak narrative, though. We can agree on that, though. We can agree that's a weak narrative.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's not like a Rashad Evans and John Jones situation.
John Jones, no. Where they brought up Greg Jackson. No, it's not the same as that.
Yeah, it's not the same. Like Cyril Gane and FrancisNgannou maybe train together for one fight or two fights.
Still enough.
Or just been in passing. We don't know. There's never been no. I've never seen FrancisNgannou and Cyril Gane like holding each other up buddy to buddy. We've never seen that.
I believe that's when because remember, Francis came in when he had locks, right? Like he had the locks in his hair. He had that for the first few fights. He cuts his hair for the Stipe fight, loses that fight, and I think that's when he left to Extreme Couture. So I think
before that, remember FrancisNgannou, he cut his hair, and I think he's been with Duke Cooper. Maybe way before that, honestly. If we're looking at the Cyril FrancisNgannou, I would say maybe Andre Arlovsky or Overeem.
It's possible. Maybe a little earlier, because that's when he got the stripe in his hair. Well, long story short, what we're trying to do is obviously go back and see when he kind of left. I know what happened was I want to say around like 2018 is when he left. He left them.
Yeah.
So his earlier days were spent with the MMA factory in France.
Bottom line is this: I hate that they decided to make this interim title fight.
Yes, I agree. This wasn't necessary. This wasn't necessary.
And then B, the constant slander last night or this whole entire week of FrancisNgannou.
I didn't see.
And now they're trying to create this narrative that Francis
I didn't
see fight
anything. Well, what did I've been I had some pretty late nights this week. Talking on the phone. Yeah. What was the narrative? What happened?
You was out busy. You was out getting busy in the New York streets, bro.
Yeah, brother outside. Chill.
No, the narrative that are running was Cyril Gane. I mean, not Cyril Gane. FrancisNgannou doesn't want to fight. They actually ran a package last night during the promo for the fight with Dana White talking about how FrancisNgannou is out on vacation, and they show stock footages or they show clips of FrancisNgannou you know riding a Ferrari, I believe.
They cut it. Yeah, they cut it. Really?
Yes, they cut a whole ass vignette trying to frame the narrative that FrancisNgannou is living life and doesn't want to fight and is getting too big. Like they show a scene of FrancisNgannou in a restaurant or whatever. I think it was the same promo they did for the Stipe second fight. And they see FrancisNgannou in a suit and driving a Ferrari, and he's in the restaurant with his arms like this, like he's a big shot. And they're trying to frame the narrative that this guy doesn't want to fight. He's a champion, but he's not a real champion. He's out there vacationing. He'll do that while we're gonna have the real fighters, the real heavyweight contenders fight for the title. Dana White's also talked about how this fight is the guy that beat Francis versus the guy that trained with Francis. Again, another narrative trying to frame it as trying to make FrancisNgannou have to fight, right? Because FrancisNgannou's whole thing is, I want more pay me more, right? That's what everybody's saying. So the UFC, do what they have to do. Interim title fight. We're gonna slander FrancisNgannou's name throughout the whole entire course of the show, the course of the week. And now the pressure is gonna be on FrancisNgannou to want to have to come back because fans are gonna be asking for it. And now you have an interim title champion here.
That's so interesting.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing they did with what was it? Who's the interim champion that came back and whooped his ass? Was it Woodley? Was it Woodley?
Woodley, no.
No, it was Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
It was Kamaru Usman. Kamaru Usman when Kobe Covington won the interim title, and then now it forced Kamaru Usman, who was going through injuries or whatever. Now he has to fight. Yeah, same exact thing. And so it's a FrancisNgannou, but FrancisNgannou literally won a championship from Stipe after going through hell this year.
Took him 3 years, basically.
And May, was it May or March? Whatever it was.
I believe it was.
And now they're slandering a guy who you can build up as a champion. I mean, as a star, but because he wants more pay, rightfully so. Now you're gonna try to frame it as, oh, he's not a champion. He's not the real guy. Cyril Gane's the real guy. And also, we're going to take away the John Jones fight now because you want to fight John Jones in a big fight. Now we have this interim title. Now it puts a block on the John Jones talk. So now it has to be FrancisNgannou versus a possibly a dangerous match with Cyril Gane, and that's your fight instead of being a FrancisNgannou versus John Jones because of the pay.
Here's the other thing. I don't know. We talked about this before. How FrancisNgannou and his manager went on, I believe, social media, was talking about how they had spoke to Dana after this fight. They wanted to take some time off to do some, take care of some business that he has. So it's very interesting to see where this, we knew this kind of going into that post fight of the Stipe, right? When he had won, we knew it was going to be not only a big thing for him, but a big thing for MMA in Africa and things like that. So we knew what we were getting when Ngannou was going to win, right? When we picked him to win. And then he did win, and we knew what we were getting then, right? He does elevate superstar status, but and not here maybe, but definitely around the world if you want to think about it. But we all knew that. It's just weird to know that early on they kind of said that, we're going to be taking a break. And then they make this fight for the interim belt. And after Cyril Gane beats Volkov, and it's like, wait a minute, what? Like, how did he gets immediate title shot, but FrancisNgannou had to wait a year plus, then fight Rozenstruik, a guy who was ranked more than 7 spots below him at the time, and now he's just everyone's getting it. So it's a very interesting narrative. We know what happens with this again. Kamaru rose to the occasion, so hopefully he can too. But again, we'll go back to the fight. We talked about who we thought we would win. We had Cyril Gane, but you never count Derek Lewis out. Did this fight go any way you didn't expect, Tyreece?
No, it went exactly how I expected, actually. And I'm not saying that to be a know-it-all or whatever. I just thought that with Cyril Gahn's ability, I was going to give Derek Lewis some trouble in trying to find him. And Cyril Gahn is smart. I thought also Cyril Gahn possibly could have took him down and look for a submission there because he's a good grappler as well.
And it's really good front choke.
And Cyril Gahn is also very elusive on his feet as well. So, like, when looking at this fight early on, yes, they kept throwing a narrative. I mean, narrative is a big term in this whole entire show so far. But they kept throwing this narrative that all it takes was one shot from Derek Lewis. And my whole thing was I didn't know how Derek was going to get that shot from a guy than Cyril Gahn who is so as technical and can pick you apart from the outside. And again, was it frustrating or like maybe not as eventful as you would want? Maybe a Francis Ngannou versus Ngannou fight, yeah. But that's Cyril Gahn's style. Cyril Gahn's style is not to be. It's for a heavyweight. It's not as fun as seeing Francis Ngannou knock somebody in the head to the bleachers. It's very technical. It's very prodding. It's very.
It's not as fun for the friend who doesn't watch MMA as often, right? It's not as fun for like that because you're right. You do want to see heavyweights push forward because we saw the last fight card with Greg Hardy and Tai Tuivasa within 30 to 40 seconds of the fight, literally going throwing haymakers in, and Tai Tuivasa gets clipped, and he catches Greg Hardy, ends Greg Hardy's night. Right. What you see is a little bit more technical, a very big technical aspect at a higher weight class. Remember, these guys are weighing in at 260. But they're not coming in at 260 the day of the fight. They're coming in closer to maybe 280, maybe 290. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting to see, again, Cyril Gahn have that kind of athleticism at that upper weight class. I think that's impressive, number one. And then the other thing is, I think a lot of pressure was put on Derek Lewis.
I think so too.
I think
so too.
Chael Sonnen talks about having to be the home fighter and how you have to kind of not only listen to what people are telling you have to do for the home, but then you have your family, you have yourself. The amount of pressure you put as opposed to someone who's coming here just to fight you is just too big for most people to handle. And not to say he can't handle it, but you can see how much that weighed on him in the fight.
But I don't think that was a major issue or I don't think a minor issue.
When it comes to skill level,
I think
Gahn is just ahead of him.
Gahn is ahead of most people in this division. Just by how big he is, how fast he is, how technical he is, and he's not a person that is going to engage in a brawl. He's going to stay on the outside. And again, when Derek Lewis was trying to catch him, he would run across the octagon and go back to the center.
It was slip, cut angles, roll, and then when Derek Lewis got too close, you're right, he would escape out the left or the right and run, which I agree with. There's no reason to get hit.
No, it's a perfect game plan. And this is not discrediting Cyril Gahn in any of this. I thought he had a beautiful game plan. I thought he did well. People now will see him as the interim champion, and now he gets to unify it. Is he the first? He's the first French
born
UFC champion.
Yep,
French born UFC champion. So there's also that as well. It made history. But I couldn't not look at last night and just think of how much the UFC blundered a blundered opportunity just because of, again, they got to line their pockets and they got to do for them instead of doing what's best for the fighters and the fans. The fight should have been Francis Ngannou versus Derek Lewis. Yeah. Derek Lewis, and I actually would have liked Derek Lewis in that matchup. And what do I always say about Derek Lewis? Don't put Derek Lewis against a guy that is a technical striker.
You can't.
When he was talking about doing him versus what was it Volkov or whatever, I said no, don't put him against him. Put him against somebody else.
I'm not saying he got lucky because you have literally have 5 minutes per round to do whatever you can do, right? So if you catch somebody, you catch somebody. But realistically, if Derek Lewis didn't clip him, Volkov matadored the hell out of him in that whole fight.
Exactly. So I mean, for Derek Lewis, I feel bad for him because this is his second title fight in his hometown. All the fanfare as well. Do I think that was bad practice on the UFC? I think so. I think you could have gave if you wanted to help Derek Lewis, give him a little Cyril Gahn in Houston,
Yeah.
where again, like FrancisNgannou was the bigger fight. Honestly, so again, to speak on the decision making here, I looked on Embedded last night, right? While we were watching, we were doing a watch along in Discord. You could join our Discord. We do watch along during a fight. Your thoughts. Look at the Embedded. The Embedded was doing below 1 million. Some of them was barely going over 500,000. I think the first one did 800,000. That was it.
Weird.
And then if you go from episode 1 to episode 6, the viewership is decreasing. So you started at 800,000, and then by the sixth episode, at least from last night, it was at 400,000. So you lost half of that viewership within the course of this week. So the attention level to this event wasn't there. I would imagine the buy rate will be down. I just thought it was a huge blunder, and I think the UFC just tried to just push on through and try to, again, they have to deal with Toyota Center, and they're going to run events there. I just think it was a bad idea.
I agree. I think they threw it together because they could, not because they threw it together because they could, not because they should have. So
yes.
All in all, we do have Cyril. We have Derek Lewis, who unfortunately lost. He got finished by TKO in the third round. Where do you see Derek Lewis going from here, Tyriece?
I see Derek Lewis taking a break for the rest of the year, honestly. And then he has to, I guess, figure out he had to put Rosenstruck, so that could be an interesting matchup. Maybe he beats Rosenstruck, and then he's back in the title picture again. I just think it's gonna be really hard. It's gonna be really hard for him to get back to the title. But again, if I'm Derek Lewis manager or UFC matchmaking, I view Derek Lewis as a star. I'm putting him in matches that kind of make him a little bit better too.
Yeah, you don't want to. I mean, a match is a match, right? But you also want to keep in mind that you have to sell the fighter at the end of the day too.
Right, and Derek Lewis in that division is your best seller. Like, he is the guy that's going to attract the most attention.
Yeah.
Outside of FrancisNgannou, or John Jones, or even Stipe. So it's those four guys in Derek Lewis. So you have to figure out what matchups suit his style a little bit, and what you can give him to kind of get back to that picture. So maybe they do Rosenstruck, maybe they do Taito Ivasa, depending on how Taito Ivasa does. That'd be a good fight for Derek Lewis as well to kind of get his shine back. For Cyril Gahn, again, he's going to fight FrancisNgannou, it seems like. The biggest question is, where does John Jones fit in all this? Again, we kind of move more and more away from John Jones the more we talk about new fighters and people coming in like Cyril Gahn. I honestly, John Jones, maybe we see him next year, July, if anything.
Well, John Jones alluded to on his, I believe it was Twitter. John Jones is really active on Twitter. He said that he'll be champion. He'll be champion in 2022. So we're looking. Hopefully, he maybe gets a fight
if he gets paid.
2022, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
If he gets paid, and then FrancisNgannou, we have the rest of the year booked out already. It seems like we have October with the two title fights, light heavyweight and then the bantamweight. November we have the welterweight title being defended. The only slot left would be December, and you have a bunch of champions that have to defend their belt. You have the strawweight champion, Rose Namajunas, still has to defend her belt. You have middleweight champion to defend his belt. The lightweight champion has to defend his belt. The flyweight champion has to defend his belt. So you have a bunch of slots for champions who have to fight.
Have to defend.
I don't know where FrancisNgannou fits in all this. And then also, Cyril Gahn also said he wants to take time off. So now your interim champion wants to take time off, and your heavyweight champion is ready. So this is the situation you got yourself in.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense, man. So now Cyril Gahn, rightfully so. Yeah, no disrespect to him, he has the right to do this.
Yeah.
He has a baby, he has a child and stuff like that. And he's gonna take some time off, so good for him. But now the UFC finds himself in a hole where your heavyweight champion is active and ready to go in his prime and have all the attention on him. Literally just did a movie Vin Diesel this summer.
Yep.
And now he has to probably wait out the rest of the year because you have this interim title fight. Make it make sense.
It don't.
It don't.
It don't.
And then by the way, just to end up on this, FrancisNgannou did an interview with SiriusXM with Jimmy Smith, SiriusXM, and Jimmy Smith asked him like, when is the last time you've heard or have you heard from the UFC? And FrancisNgannou said it's been radio silent. So the UFC and FrancisNgannou's not even talking about negotiations regarding the next fight.
You can't make it up.
Moving on.
You literally can't make it up.
Moving on. Jose Aldo versus Pedro Munoz. Elijah, what do you think about this fight?
Well, I did fall asleep for 2 seconds while watching this, and I woke up.
You did.
You caught me. I wasn't gonna say nothing. Like, yo, where you at? I was like, yo, bro, I'm right here. What are you talking about? I was trying to play it up. I woke up. I was like, yo, I fell asleep, and then you called me. I was like, shit, I gotta lie now. Jose Aldo. What surprised me? I'll make this quick. Why did he have such an issue making 145 but makes 135 beautifully? What? Can you?
I think lifestyle changes.
You can't. I'm so confused because he looks, reacts, and is still phenomenal at 135. I mean, when it comes to the top level guys, right? Like when he lost to Peter Yan, there was a game plan change, I believe, in that second round where you saw the leg kicks kind of start to take effect, and Peter Yan was kind of stunned from those. Didn't do much after he started getting those in. We saw Jose Aldo go back to it, but then when he relied solely on the boxing and tried to hit these crazy heavy hooks, and it just was, aiming, he ended up getting countered a lot. What we saw last night was beautiful, crisp boxing that we know is there, and Pedro Munoz is great, but Aldo he's just that good. There's a reason why he was the king at 145 for as long as he was. There's a reason.
Aldo ages like fine wine, man. Constantly, as he gets older, he just constantly you see him getting better and better.
His boxing is getting better as well. We know the Muay Thai is good, but the boxing, hands is crazy. Crazy.
Yes. His boxing last night today looks better than his boxing was when he was featherweight champion.
Yes, sir.
It's a lot more cleaner.
Yeah. Look, he looked better than he did in that second Mendes fight. And that second Mendes fight was a war.
Right. I think Aldo, again, he changed his lifestyle a little bit. I think he dedicated himself to 135, and he makes the weight now. And that hasn't struggled on the weigh-ins, it seems like. And he's also bigger than a lot of these guys at 135 too. So I thought Pedro Munoz, again, I had Aldo winning the fight before the fight happened. And I thought it was a good display of skill. Like even when he had the boxing, and even when he was going to the body and going with the hooks, he invested later on in the legs too. Like he invested early in the legs, and then people was acting like, where the leg is at? Where the leg is at? It would help him. He started touching up to the body, touching to the head, and now the leg is opened up as well. So the counter for Pedro Munoz wasn't there to kind of with a right down the middle or anything coming off of it. So now he's hitting with body shots, he's hitting with to the head with jabs. His jabs working really well this and then. And then the leg kicks.
Did Pedro use teep kicks as well? Because that's one of the bigger things he likes to use for people who are bigger than him.
No.
Interesting.
No.
Interesting.
Honestly, it was if you go back and watch the fight, it was more of just the speed and the precision. The speed and the precision of Aldo made it really, really hard for Pedro Munoz to really get any offense on. You see, he was trying to throw wheel kicks and spinning heel kicks, trying to get something going. He even started the third round pretty aggressive, and then Aldo's hands put that to bed quickly. Hit Pedro Munoz with two hooks, right and a left, and that stopped the whole momentum, and they went back to being the Aldo show. Just a really, really good display of the skill from Aldo. And honestly, man, just watching this fight, it makes me want to see Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw.
Did I not propose that in a prior show? I said TJ Dillashaw versus Jose Aldo would sell. That fight sells. The technical ability needed for that fight is insane.
That's a number one contender fight as well, I think. I think you could do TJ Dillashaw versus Jose Aldo, and that's the number one contender. I think TJ Dillashaw should fight one more fight. And
Given
I think
he has a lot of injuries, but yeah, I agree. It depends, right? Because
people call for, but
he popped, I think, his left knee or his right knee, and he had some ankle issues. I don't know the recovery time of that, but I agree. I would love to see Aldo versus TJ Dillashaw at 135 for the number one contender.
Well, I don't think we see Aldo the rest of the year. I'm not sure we see Aldo the rest of the year. So let's do Aldo versus somebody within the top 5 or whatever.
Yeah, but there's no one right now. When we look at the UFC rankings, right? We don't really have like. Well, okay, he just beat TJ Dillashaw, just beat Corey Sandhagen. TJ Dillashaw is not going to fight Rob Font.
No.
Jose Aldo's number 5 and Rob Font's number 4. You could possibly do that, but then you still have TJ at the top, depending on what time he can come back and fight, right? So, like, you don't want to muddle the top. Then we have Jan versus Sterling for later this fall. I mean, Aldo could fight Font, but
I wouldn't be surprised if Aldo is the backup
for that fight.
Or Font. Yeah, probably more Aldo than Font. Just because of who
I feel like Font might be the backup, and that's only because that fight's going to be stateside. So I feel like it might be.
No, it's not.
It's not.
No, it's in Abu Dhabi.
Oh, then never mind. Yeah, Aldo might be. I don't know. Still might be fun, but there's definitely a backup. I agree with you. There's definitely a backup for that fight. There's for sure a backup.
It's in Abu Dhabi, and also keep in mind that with COVID and with maybe possible travel restrictions as we get later into the fall, who knows what may happen. So yeah, I think the UFC should have a backup in place for any other fights happening this year.
Yeah,
just you know what I mean. So I think it's possible that Aldo could be a backup for that bantamweight title fight, especially with the win over Pedro Munoz.
Solid contender.
I think Rob Font needs one more fight. I think a win over Cody Garbrandt today. I don't know if that gets you a title fight off the bat.
Yeah, no. Again, a fight over Aldo or a fight over TJ Dillashaw would, but in reality, I think we get TJ versus Jose Aldo. Then I think Rob Font gets the loser of that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that, or Rob Font fights Corey Sandhagen, and that's a fight as well.
That's a great fight. That's a great.
So about Aldo though, man. Just speaking of Aldo for a second, I'm just impressed by how Aldo has constantly and also like how loved he is. Like Aldo is loved in this whole entire Houston weekend and UFC 256, 255. Sorry, he was getting loved and getting appreciated, and like all the fighters were appreciating him, the crowd was appreciating him. Like just seeing him get his flowers while he still is active and still doing what he does, and then goes out and beat Carmino. You can't write anything better than that.
That's what the crazy part is. Jose Aldo, I mean, he is a little older than most of the bantamweights, but he's only 34.
Right.
You hit that. Most people hit their prime around 32, 34. So I'm loving it. We've always been fans. He's one of the people who's been, here since the start of that featherweight division, who's been literally winning more. Like he just is not. When you see him fight, you tune in. That's the thing. You hear that name of Jose Aldo, you're like, oh, that whoever he's fighting, it's either he's finishing them or it's going to be a war.
Right. So I'm very impressed with Aldo. Hopefully we see him again fighting somebody in the top 5, getting close to a title shot. Now moving on to the Vicente Luque versus Michael Chiesa fight.
Not much to
this
say.
fight, I did not know who was going to win, honestly, because I thought Michael Chiesa, his grappling was good. I also knew that Vicente Luque's grappling is also good, but Vicente Luque has the advantage in the hands.
Yeah.
And Vicente Luque goes out there, counters. I think he was about to get guillotine, right?
Yeah, he countered the potential like armbar type move that he was trying to do, and ends up in a darce. Ends up getting the darce because Michael Chiesa left his head out. He like they were one of the big. They said wrestlers tend to leave their neck out because when they're shooting, that's how they gain the position. He left his neck out and enters a slick darce. I thought Chiesa was going to get out of it until he adjusted by bringing his left leg closer while he was laying. I was like, whoa, that's tight. And then when I realized Chiesa could roll over or kind of roll into him or roll to the side, I was like, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I again, just that small instance of them on the ground, and there was so many moves and transitions and just like
Yes.
countering of each
Yes.
other, that like it's hard to like tell what came before what. And the same thing Luke gets Darce choke, Vicente Luque, people are now recognizing him as a legit contender in the welterweight division. I say pump the brakes on the Kamaru Usman talk. I think Vicente Luque should fight Wonderboy again. That's just me. I think a second fight with Wonderboy makes sense after this fight. Like you feel differently?
I think he is a legit contender. I do think he's one fight away. That fight could either be in the form of a definitive win over Wonderboy, right? You could reclaim that W. Get that L back and get the W, or he could fight Leon.
You can fight Leon.
Or if they really want to get snazzy and jazzy, he could fight Masvidal. I mean, that's less likely to happen out of all of this, but he needs to fight. Yes. I think he's one fight away from truly getting a shot at Kamaru Usman. I think the better fight for him, a more successful fight for him to sell a narrative, would be to beat Wonderboy. However, a more interesting, more matched up fight would be, for me, because we already saw him versus Wonderboy. We're like, that fight could go another way. It could go another way. It is what it is. A more interesting technical fight is him versus Leon. That fight is so technical, you can't even begin to unpeel the layers of just what those gentlemen have to prepare for in the other fighter.
Now, if I'm looking at this, right? So the reason why I say Wonderboy 2, the rematch, is because if we're saying Vicente Luque has grown from that fight and has become a better fighter from that fight,
significantly,
he has to show that against Wonderboy again. Yeah. Wonderboy has been the guy that you have to beat in order to say, okay, you really are a championship caliber worthy. And nobody has been able to finish Wonderboy, except for Anthony Pettis, and that was a
full knockout,
a super punch off the cage, which how you pull that off, against Wonderboy. But I think Vicente Luque has to go out there and kind of get that back and kind of show that he's of that ilk to be fighting for a title. I think for Leon Edwards, I think you don't want to do Vicente Luque. I think that's a step down for Leon Edwards. Even though we talk about how good and how of a challenger Vicente Luque is today, I think Leon Edwards has to either fight a Gilbert Burns or he has to fight a Jorge Masvidal. Like it can't be anybody else besides those two. Or the champion. We'll fight Kamaru Usman, but Leon Edwards cannot fight anybody else below that. For Jorge Masvidal, I don't see that fight happening for Luque. I think Jorge Masvidal will want to fight the loser of Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman. I also think Jorge Masvidal might have the Nate Diaz thing in the back pocket. He has. He has.
You're muted.
Can you?
I can hear you now. Yeah, you were muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. My headphones went out.
That's fine. Keep it going, brother. Keep it going.
Yeah. So, but for Pacific, look at it, they're training partners with Gilbert Burns. So I don't see that fight happening either. So, and Gilbert Burns is also calling out Nate Diaz as well. Yeah, you can call out Nate Diaz as well. Jorge Masvidal. So there's those fights, and Edwards as well. So I don't see that happening. So the only option would be Vicente Luque versus Wonderboy 2.
I don't think it's the only option, but I think it's the smartest option. Yeah.
Respectfully. That's my opinion.
And the issue is whether or not Masvidal signs Masvidal. I think the likelier fight is Leon versus Gilbert than Leon versus Masvidal, because it doesn't seem like Masvidal cares for that fight.
I mean, that's very well true. I could see Leon Edwards versus Gilbert Burns as well.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see. You also have potentially new welterweight challengers coming up the rankings. So You also do that. But Vicente Luque, for me, honestly, I think the Wonder Boy fight makes the most sense out of everything.
Yeah, I agree.
And if I'm looking at the rankings right here, Vicente Luque is number 6, Wonder Boy is number 4. So that is a step up with Vicente Luque. So that's the fight to make. That's the fight to make. Moving on, just going through the rest of the card. Angela Hill loses to Tisha Torres. Tisha Torres looked good. Dominated Angela Hill. For me, looking at this fight, I think Hill needs to fight somebody outside the rankings now. I think Hill had a lot of opportunities to fight people that was ranked ahead of her, or people that you got to get her close to a title. She's lost those fights, unfortunately. Some that are controversial, some that aren't. So I think now she has to fight somebody outside the rankings. Yeah,
it's gonna be hard for her to really prove that she deserves that top 10 person now.
Right. So give Hill somebody. Maybe she fights the loser of Generoba versus Rivas. Maybe Hill fights against somebody outside the rankings. Like Hill has to win some fights and get back into being closer to being somebody that's in the top 10, top 5 rankings.
Agreed.
So it's unfortunate because I know that they want to push Hill as this potential title challenger, and they're doing like we don't credit when the UFC tries to push somebody. They're trying to push Angela Hill. It's just that she just hasn't been able to.
She's had success when she's had success, but in those other moments, she hasn't. It doesn't go the way she wants.
And then let's say this, right? Like Angela Hill is like extremely good. She's really, really good, right? I think she is very well rounded. Maybe less so in the grappling department, but I think her striking can hang with the best of them. But like, it's never felt like to me that she's better than. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like she's always equal. She's always equal to the people that she's fighting or her peers. There's never been a fight where I feel like, oh, she's just better than, or she's just a step above, or she's just that far ahead. She's right there.
She loses by thin margins, and it's like, come on, we're like, you're supposed to win that one.
Like the Rose Namajunas of the world, the Willie Zhangs of the world, the Joanna Jacobs of the world. When you see,
I said they're eons above their people.
Yes. When they're facing their opponents, usually somebody that's not at their rankings or what have you, they seem like they're always a step above them, and that you can clearly see that there's something they can do better than the other. Angela Hill, for me, she hasn't felt like she has reached that level of I'm steps above my competition in this skill or set or that.
You put me with this person, I'm destroying them.
It seems like she's just in terms of skill set, she's right there with her peers, and I think for her to be someone that's going to be a title challenger, she has to be a step above.
Agreed. So you have to have something that definitively puts you apart from the rest of the people you're fighting.
Yes. So hopefully Angela Hill can break through and possibly be a top 5 contender. And the rest of the card, Song Yadong beats Asa Kenny in the split decision fight. I thought it was a good fight. Aziz beat Bobby Green in a good fight. Bobby Green had a great showing in the latest stage of the fight.
Always so good. I love Bobby Green, man. You know how I feel about him.
Jessica Panay beats Carolina Kowalkiewicz by armbar. So good for her. I think she's on a 2-fight win streak, I believe now.
Back from that long USADA ban.
Yes, she came back from 2017 and now has won 2 fights against Lupi Gondins. I can't pronounce her name. And Carolina, so good for her. Man, just overall, I thought the card was very, very good. But it was not $70. It was not going to be a worthy card. If we're being honest.
No. This could have been a fight night.
Yes, a very good fight night on ESPN or ABC.
Yep.
Which you may see in 2 months. You may see that in October. You may get the light heavyweight fight and the bantamweight fight, UFC 267 on a ABC card. And that may be a better card than this one because now you have 2 title fights, plus Islam Makhachev versus RDA.
Yeah.
You know, so comparing cards. But yeah, I thought it was a good quality card, not the review worthy. Elijah, what would you give it rating?
I'm gonna go B, solid B.
Why?
I think even though this wasn't supposed to happen, it was very great matchups, and I'm happy it did. I think Cyril Gane proved that he's top tier, even though he's newer to the sport. He's top tier. I think he's a great contender. He proved that he was skillfully better than Derek Lewis. I think we also got a great co-main event in Aldo. We also have Aldo showing out at 135, which a lot of people love him, but we're starting to get that feel like, damn, Aldo really maybe he may have lost for the bantamweight belt, but there's not too many people who can beat him in that division. He's again a definitive person who's not eons, but definitely skill levels ahead of the competition around him. So maybe he may not be able to beat certain people as if they're champions. However, there's people he can beat, and maybe it depends on the night when he shows up. Sure. And as for the rest of the card, I thought we had really good fights and really good matchups. So I'm gonna go B. What about you?
I'm with you. I think for everything you said, I'm going B as well. It wasn't something that I'll go back and watch. Honestly, I thought the main event was, it was unfortunate, but that's the game that Cyril Gane plays.
Yep.
I thought the co-main event was good. I thought Benito Luque was impressive. Yeah, I think it's a solid B card. I don't think it's pay-per-view worthy. I don't think it's worth $70. I think the attention of the fans kind of lost too. When you look at the embedded, the countdowns, the viewership compared to other pay-per-view cards we've seen this year, it's just night and day. So yeah, I'm gonna say it's a solid B card. Did not need to be pay-per-view. It could have been a fight night. And yeah, I think again, the UFC and Dana White constantly trying to belittle the champions and discredit them. Now it kind of hurts your future title fights, right? Yeah. So now when you do Cyril Gane versus FrancisNgannou, now people that maybe casual fans that don't know anything about the sport, don't follow the sport, when they hear you say, "Oh, this guy wants to take a vacation," "Oh, this guy's not the real guy," or "this guy just is not," he'll fight whenever he fights. We're moving on. Well, now you're discrediting your champion, and now, the casual fans are going to now not want to watch the fight as well.
Your actual champion, as opposed to that. Yeah, I agree. They kind of shoot themselves in the foot a little bit on that one.
And now also, because of the interim title fight, now you, again, like I said before earlier, now you have maybe a year or a couple of months before you see the title fight unified. Because Cyril Gane's taking time off now, and now FrancisNgannou is ready. So it's all that drama, and yeah, it's a solid B card. It's nothing to go back and watch. If I'm being honest, no. It wasn't $70 worthy. So
definitely not.
Hey, what can you do? They don't want to get it together.
All right, man.
All right, so we're going. So there is no UFC next week. I believe there is no. I believe there's no Bellator either. I think Bellator is off as well. So we're going to be taking, I guess, a break, and then Musashi vs. Salter is August 13th, which will be a Friday. I'll do a recap. I'll do a recap show for that. I'll come back and talk about that. But yeah, we're gonna be on break, us together, for a while. And then next week I'll have more information on what's going to happen regarding this channel, what we're going to do going forward. Again, you're not going to lose a show. If anything, you're gaining more content. We just got to figure out exactly what that content will be and how we're gonna produce it. So yeah. So again, Elijah, congratulations on your new job.
Same to you, brother. Same to you.
Thank you. And yeah, we're gonna continue to grow. We're gonna continue to pushing out more content now, and hopefully you join us on the journey. So for the viewers watching, we appreciate you. We love you. Join our Discord for more discussions and more watch-alongs with us. And until next time, my name is Tyriece Simon.
Elijah Jones.
This is MMA Renegade Podcast.